This recording is to answer some of the most common questions that we get on a daily basis. The most common questions are around measuring. Now, when measuring, we highly recommend getting the free information package from our website. There is an option to print out a piece of paper and do it that way, but you're not going to get a very accurate measurement on the girth, because when you're measuring the girth, you want to apply lubricant, and it's impossible to do with paper. So order the measuring band that we send you. And then the length, it's just follow the instructions in the video. You're basically just going to put the band to the pelvic bone, pull your penis forward as far as comfortable. Don't yank yourself out like you're pulling yourself out of your shoes. You basically just want to pull it to a comfortable length, something that you would want to experience as you're wearing it. And then you measure just to the tip. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about thinking about it going behind the head instead of the tip. We make an adjustment for that. Just follow the directions from the base of your pelvis to the tip of your penis, and we're going to make an adjustment from there. As for the girth, it's absolutely critical that you use lubricant. So you basically put some lubricant around behind the head of your penis, wrap the band around, get it snug, grab both sides of it. So pinch down the one side that has the flap, and then the other side, just kind of put your thumb on there, and then pull it forward until you're fully extended, meaning the full extension of what you would normally want your penis to be. And make sure the loop does not slide off. If it slides off, then do it again, but do it one size tighter. Keep doing this until the band does not slip off. So we always suggest measuring tighter than looser. So if you're in between two lines, meaning there's a line between the D and the E, for example, we recommend going with the D. Now, some people are hesitant to go with a tighter girth because they're thinking, okay, I'm gonna feel strangled, and my penis gets engorged and that kind of thing. So there's a couple things to think about. The area behind the head of your penis does not grow anywhere near as much as the shaft or the head. It's actually only about 40%. So even though if your penis is engorged, the area behind the head of your penis is still almost half the size. The other thing to consider is the elator. It is all made out of stainless steel. It's hand soldered together. The front loop is stainless steel, but the top third of the front loop has a small spring in it, and that allows for a little expansion, and it also allows for some contraction. So when you're measuring it, just make sure you keep it snug enough where it's not going to slip off. What I can tell you is when somebody orders a full elator and they need to order a shaft afterwards, I would say 90% of the time it's for a new girth size, and it's usually always smaller. So length is usually pretty much dead on. Girth size can be off about 20% of the time, and it's usually tighter. So just keep that in mind. Couple other questions people ask, what happens if I get erect, or what happens if I start erect? So that's kind of goes back to the part about the spring, and the area behind the head of your penis does not engorge as much. So we have clients that have something called venous leakage, where they get a full erection for maybe a minute or 5 minutes, and then the valve that's supposed to hold the blood in the penis kind of leaks out, and their penis goes flaccid. So they actually put on the elator fully erect, and that's at the point where the spring would be kind of expanded, and as they lose their erection, it will contract. So that works great. You still want to measure while flaccid, no matter what. And it works the other way. So if you have, if you start out completely flaccid, and as you get going, you do get some engorgement, you don't have to worry about it, because that spring is going to expand a little bit. So if you just follow the directions, make sure you're always measuring while flaccid. Another question we get is, can you use a penis pump before? Absolutely, no problem. And how should you measure? So the penis pump is kind of the same situation unless you're using the constricting ring. If you're using the constricting ring, then the blood flow is going to stay in your penis. So you could actually measure while you're partially erect if you like. So for example, if you were to pump up and then you put the clamp on and you stay, let's say 80% erect, you could definitely measure at that point. One thing about doing that is when you measure the girth, just follow the instructions, same thing, you don't want it to slip off. But as for the length, you're going to want to measure while you have the constricting ring on. They're typically about a half an inch thick. So basically, if you're not wearing the constriction ring, you might be a 12 on our measuring band. But with the constriction ring, you might need an 11 because you have that space that's in there. So just make sure to allow for that. I typically recommend one size shorter which would be a 1/2 inch if you're going to use the constriction ring. Another question or confusion that we have about the sizes. So our band, the numbers that are on there are in 1/2 inch increments. So if it's a 10, that means it's 5 inches from end to end. Now, going back to what I said originally, when you order, don't overthink the length because we do make an adjustment. So for example, let's say you measure a 12, which is from the base to the tip. We're actually going to send you a 10 because we're accounting for about an inch size of your head going behind the head of the penis. So you order a 12, we'll send you a 10, which is 5 inches long. So when you're reordering, you're not going to use the band measurements. You're going to use the length of the elator, the shaft. And we do this for a couple of reasons. One, because of the confusion of ordering one size, getting another. And the other is not everyone remembers the size they have. So you can always just go back to the size of your shaft by measuring it. Just take a regular tape measure from end to end. It's going to be 3.5 inches, 4.5 inches, 5, whatever it is. And then when you can reorder whatever size you want online. Another common question is if you get the elator and it slips off. So if it slips off, 100% you need a tighter girth. Some people think it's just too long, but if it's slipping off, it's just absolutely too big. Now, the guidance on this, what I usually ask is, do you slip off when you're lubricated, or do you also slip off when you're dry, meaning without lubricant? So if you slip out while you're dry, meaning no lubricant, I typically suggest at least 2 sizes tighter in girth. So say you ordered an H, you're going to want to go with a F. It's 2 sizes tighter. So if you're only slipping off when you're lubricated, meaning it stays on while you're dry, and once you add lubricant, then it slips off, then I would suggest only 1 size tighter on the girth. As for the length, I don't recommend remeasuring with the band. Just get rid of the band and use the elator as a guide. So say you put it on and you just feel like it's stretched out too much. So the way you do this is you want to attach the elator, and if it is too big and it's slipping off, then don't use lubricant, and if it's still slipping off, put some tissue in between the head of your penis and the loop just to hold it on there, just so it stays on there. And then you're going to want to clip it on. So let's say it's too long and you're pointed up, or the base ring is twisting to the side, or the only way you can clip it on is when you have your penis forward and you clip it on and it won't go down. So now we know it's too long. So what I suggest is disconnect the base ring from the back and let the elator shaft slide past the base ring. And then you use your fingers as a spacer. So like let's say you slide the base ring, or slide the shaft back behind the base ring, and you have 1 extra finger space. Well, 1 finger is typically about a 1/2 inch, which is 1 size. Or you say it's 2 fingers, then you know, okay, I need it 1 inch shorter, or I need it a 1/2 inch shorter. Use that as a guide to decide how much shorter you want. The feeling you should have is basically when you're standing up, the penis should be pointed straight out, just like the photo on our website. So if it's not there, you're going to want to go a little shorter and just use your fingers as a spacer. Now, if you're pointed down, that is typically for sure you need it longer. If you're pointed at a 45-degree angle, I would probably say 1 size longer would be pretty good. If you're pointed down to the ground, you need maybe 2 sizes or even more than that. So you can do the same thing. Just attach it like normal and then disconnect the shaft from the base ring, and then just use your fingers as a spacer. So put 1 finger in between there, and okay, now I'm pointed straight out. Great. You just need 1 size, which is a 1/2 inch, or 2 fingers. Then you need 2 sizes, which is 1 inch. So that's the way you can handle the resizing of the measurement. Like I said, don't use the band anymore. Don't start over from scratch. Use your existing elator as a guide. One of the other questions I get, will my partner feel any pain or discomfort? So we've been selling the Elator for over 10 years, and if it caused partners discomfort, we would have been out of business in about 10 minutes. There are several hundred reviews on our website. There are quite a few actually now from a women's point of view. And all the feedback that we've gotten is the same feedback that I experienced with my wife when we tried it. Basically, they say the front loop, you don't really notice that because it's behind the head of the penis, and it's soft medical grade silicone. So they don't really even notice the front loop. They do notice the bars, but the bars are very thin. They're thinner than a penny, and they're lined with a medical grade plastic known as peat. Now the bars, as long as they glide across the bottom of the penis, they will feel them, but they're not painful or discomforting in any way. The only time I've seen some kind of an issue where there's some discomfort is if the shaft is too long and you create kind of a bow. So imagine your penis is straight out, but the bars are bowing underneath and there's a space. Maybe say you got a finger space between the penis and the bars. So that way you're going to definitely create some pressure and it's going to cause a little discomfort. So that's about the only time I've ever seen any discomfort or pain reported, is when the shaft is too long. Some of the other questions are, can you use it for oral sex? Can you use it for anal sex? Yes, you can use it for both. It's basically a splint. It's not a complicated device. It's just going to hold you extended. The feeling of wearing the Elator is if you're completely flaccid right now and you just stand up, grab the head of your penis, pull it forward until it stops. That's what it's going to feel like, and that's what it's going to provide for you. Other questions like, how long does it last? Most of our customers reorder after 2.5 to 3 years. You can order a new shaft, $148. So if you need something resized, it's $148. If it wears out, it's $148. If you want to go with the tickle version, or you want to go tan or a smooth version, then it's $148. Basically, to wash it, we just say use warm water and a mild soap. Heat destroys silicone, so some people are boiling it in hot water. It's going to kill it quicker, and some people over sterilize it with alcohol and so on. Anything that's going to dry out that front loop of the silicone is going to degrade it, and it's going to wear out quicker. But typically most people get about 2.5, 3 years. So those are the most common questions that we get asked. And if you have any other questions, just give us a call back during business hours. We'd be happy to help you. Thank you. Bye-bye.